Hi, Stephen here. I'm going to run through what startups need to know about Facebook advertising. That's me if you want to put a face to the voice. I have a master's degree in social media, many years of digital marketing experience, and I run a social advertising agency. But more to the point for startups is I used to work for Mendeley and TrialReach, two London-based startups. Mendeley's in science, recently sold to Elsevier for 100 million. Very nice. But the most important thing is I quite often go to Silicon Milk Roundabout, which is a London institution. It's a job fair that puts people who want jobs in startups together with all the startups who are looking for people. And in the last one, I went around and I asked all the startups, are you using Facebook advertising? And I had a pretty mind-blowing response from quite a few of them. Because the response was, well, we did Facebook advertising and it didn't work for us, so we've stopped it. And most of these companies have products and services that are perfect for social media distribution. So it's really amazing to see these very clever people try this platform, fail, and then just go somewhere else. So what I'm going to talk about is kind of a few things that startups might possibly run into that create problems with Facebook advertising, and show you a few examples of how to use Facebook in a positive way. So you can win with Facebook advertising if you really look after these four things. So you talk to your audience about a story or a USP or an angle that they care about inside a distribution and sharing framework. So we'll get into that in a bit. But let's look at this advert against those 4 points. So I got shown this on Facebook. So the first thing is it takes you a while to figure out what it actually is, but it's for a fertility show. So I'm a guy, I'm not married, I'm unlikely to be having children anytime soon, let alone having problems with fertility. So really they have targeted the wrong audience. They have no real story. So you can see the first line is, do you live near London? Which makes no sense to me at all. There's no reason within this to actually share this on anywhere. And you can see that as they've got the heading and the subtext incorrect, they don't really understand Facebook yet. They don't really understand how to get effective advertising onto Facebook, let alone, the strategies and techniques for being effective with it. Here's a great example from PayPal that shows you even the big companies get it wrong. So again, an ad that was meant to be targeted women, but that came through to me as well. Very easy fix, just don't target guys. But more than that, you can see that they've just gone for a big brand play. In 3 times they repeat their brand instead of actually getting to the USP or why I'd care about whatever they were trying to get me to do. And I'm not really shopping for clothes while I'm on Facebook, and I certainly wouldn't just magically want to go and set up a PayPal account for it. So the strategy, the story there is incorrect. No matter, even though they got the audience wrong, even if they were talking to women, it's a very strange story. And there's still no reason to share. There's no reason for me to go on and tell anybody else about this. You can see Morrison's, who are a big UK supermarket chain, trying to ride on the back of Halloween. So there is some audience, but there's still no story and no reason to share this. So there's something I see a lot when just about anybody starts doing Facebook advertising, and I think there's a key mistake that clever people, especially with a startup iterative mentality, make this mistake a lot. There's a real fake learning curve that catches people. There's a learning curve when you become competent with the mechanic of getting Facebook ads running. You can get something up and running. But the real learning curve comes if you have a very set method of testing your ads towards specific Facebook audiences, specific segments. So what happens quite often, especially in the startup mindset, is you try something, it doesn't work, you abandon it and you go on to the next thing. But if you don't go through the testing phase and the measurement phase with Facebook ads, you're never going to get it right. The real learnings and the real light bulb moments come after you have a process of testing over time. And there's a big difference between Google ads and Facebook ads. So people take what we're doing on Google, answering people's questions, and then they just apply that directly to Facebook, and that just does not work. So Google visitors are like a stream of visitors to you. So on day one, you could have somebody putting in the question, buy yellow shoes. And 6 months later, somebody else will put in the question, buy yellow shoes. That's just this constant stream of people asking you the same question. That's very different from Facebook. What you have are pools or segments of people, and over time those segments will change. So you'll be speaking to one type of people at the start of a campaign, you'll use up that segment or that pool, and you'll move on to another segment or another pool of people who have different interests or who like different things on Facebook. And you'll need to talk in different ways to each of them. But what this really means is you can compare your Google ads over time very easily. So you start with an ad on day one, and 6 months later you've iterated and improved that ad, and you get this nice improvement in whatever you care about, whether it's click-through rate, conversion rate, shares. The ad you've got at the end of your 6 months can be very easily compared to the ad you started with, and you see a nice upward trend. That means you've improved what you've done. And that's very easy to do because the variable is the ad. The people who are coming have a very constant question, buy yellow shoes, for example, and you just iteratively improve your advert. But you can't do the same thing with Facebook ads, because you really, over a 6 month campaign, you'll speak to a lot of different segments. So let's say in this case you are Adidas and you've come out with a new shoe, and if you look on the left hand side, that big blue line would be people who like Adidas on Facebook, and you talk to them and you use up that segment very quickly. People buy, but by week 2 or 3 the people who wanted to buy have bought, and now nobody wants to, and you need to move on to another segment. So maybe you move on to the red segment, which is people that like Nike on Facebook. So they convert relatively well and then they tail off. And then you're going to, okay, let's say anybody that likes skate shoes. And then the next segment is anybody that liked any fashion brand. And once you've run through that, you'll be, okay, anybody that likes hip-hop music. So you'll see for each of those segments, some have a propensity to convert much more than others. And you will be having to have a different discussion with each segment. So you'll have different ad text, you'll have different conversation pieces. So what happens, you get this ad at the end of 6 months that is much better than the ad you started with, but it's much more difficult to just look at the raw numbers and say, my 6 month later ad is much better than my first month ad, because you will probably in 6 months time be talking to a segment of people that doesn't convert as well as the segment you started with. So you need to take into account that on Facebook you have variables in the people who are seeing your ads, as well as the ads themselves being a variable as you iteratively improve them. So here's how you win. The winning on Facebook and on any social media platform comes when you abandon the Google way of advertising, the one-to-one advert, and you unlock one-to-many advertising. The tricky thing with Facebook is you can do lots of one-to-one advertising on Facebook, but that's not where the value of a social media channel lies. The value of Facebook and the value of social media lies in being able to unlock this one-to-many relationship for your advertising or your message or your USP. So here's a great example of it. We have SMX on the left hand side. They're showing me a marketing ad, and this is an ad that runs on the right hand side of Facebook, and then loads of ads there. And basically this is the one-to-one ad. They show me the ad, I click on it, they pay $1, I see their web page, and I sign up to go to the conference or not. So each ad, each click, they pay for one interaction. On the right hand side you've got Red Bull, because they really know their audience. They know what's going to resonate. It's an amazing picture that's going to really resonate with the Red Bull audience. And you can see over 10,500 people have liked that image. 363 people have taken that image and shared it onto their own Facebook pages. And then all their friends get to see this Red Bull image, as well as there being 61 comments on the actual post. And that, what is quite a simple picture, has allowed Red Bull to do something which, once it gets shared and comments on, unlocks that one-to-many relationship. You do one thing and many people see it. And that is the value of social media, and that's really the value of Facebook. So if all you're doing is this one-to-one marketing like SMX is doing here, it is very, oh, that is exactly where a lot of companies, that's all that they get to. They do that, it doesn't work for them, the ROI doesn't work, and then they abandon Facebook as a platform. It's the companies that move over to doing what Red Bull's doing, to doing this creative stuff that really talks to their audience, and that they can then, as a company, they can say, well, maybe we'll put some money behind promoting this because we know it works. And that's where the money should go. So those are two different ways of using Facebook advertising. And really, if you're a startup and you have a limited budget, what you really need to do is enable one-to-many advertising as soon as you can. So here's a great example of a company that missed it. So this is Portent, a marketing company I really like based in the States. And they were playing around with Twitter at the time the US government shut down, and they were scraping Twitter. And they gathered that data, and they found that most Twitter users thought the Republicans were to blame for the shutdown. And they posted that on their website, and it got a decent number of Facebook likes and tweets and Google Plus shares and LinkedIn shares. So they got this great feedback on this piece of content that people were finding it topical, timely, and interesting, and they were sharing it. That's the kind of content you want to take and you want to put on Facebook. So when they put it on Facebook, not really much happened, but you know that this is something that people were sharing and would be keen to share. And that's when you need a bit of paid advertising on Facebook that provides the catalyst for this sharing. And you get a real outsized return for your marketing budget because you have a piece of content that's doing all the heavy lifting. You just need a bit of distribution, and then once people start sharing that content, that's when you really win. So I hope you found that useful. Leave a comment below or get hold of me at First Conversion on Twitter. Cheers.